Jock, I hate snakes. There's a giant snake in the plane. I hate him. Hey, what's up, guys? Just got this like a day or two ago, and it's an actual bobblehead one because Disney and Lucasfilm and all that stuff. So I'm gonna put it right up here while we do this thing. But yeah, this should be fun. Like, I've probably seen. Well, actually, here, let me introduce it properly. Welcome to the first episode of Wheel of Movies. We're going to be talking about the Raiders of the Lost Ark tonight because what the Wheel of Movies is, if you're, since this is the first time, we put all of our favorite movies from all of our channel regulars, the partners in our channel, my favorite movies in there, and then we also each doing about 20 wild cards in there. Just some it could be guilty pleasures, it could be movies we haven't seen, it could be new releases, or even bad movies. A couple people threw in a few. So, and we spun the wheel, and it landed on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's very fitting because we got a new Indiana Jones movie coming out soon, The Dial of Destiny, and yeah, so I'm excited to talk about this because I've probably seen this movie probably roughly about a dozen times or so, but I give it a rewatch, and man, I forget how much of a masterpiece. Dude, they do not make very many movies like this anymore. There's a couple rare ones, and I'll just give the before I introduce my guest, and I'll just say Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was released on June 1st, 1981. The runtime is about an hour and 45 minutes, which is perfect for this thing, I think. Directed by Steven Spielberg, but with a story that was written by George Lucas. And yeah, and the movie's set in the year 1936, about 3 years before World War III, or start 2, and there's no World War III. So, but yeah, let me introduce our crew we have for tonight. We have, as always, I have my co-host Austin Pez Howell. How's it going?
Yeah, this and the other two films in the trilogy are easily in my top, 100. And you've seen it about a dozen times. Times that by about 20, and that's how many times I've probably seen this
Yeah.
movie. Like I've probably, no
I'm
joke,
sure.
seen this over 200 times. Like that's being conservative. It might be more. And I've seen it 4 or 5 times in a theater. Yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time, and yeah, it's almost so praised that it's almost underrated at times because it's like
Right.
you just forget how good it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, like there was a time where these movies they would come on TV so many times, and I'm like, Indiana Jones again. I don't know if I want to watch this again, but then well, I'll say that, but then I'll find myself just sitting there. I'm not changing the channel and just sitting there watching it. I'm like, oh, like it sucked me in again. so yeah, and I tried to see it on the big screen this week, and freaking Regal they had their movie times listed wrong. So it's actually playing right now in a movie theater. So if you go right
It
now,
played tonight, but so I could have watched it tonight. But like I said, I've seen it 4 or 5 times in the theater, so it's not that big
yeah,
a deal. I did rewatch my 4K of it one more time. Just why not? This is a movie I don't need to rewatch. I know it shot for shot, line for line. You know what I mean? I don't need to, but I did anyways, just because it's awesome. So why not?
yeah, right, yeah, and we also have someone joining us that we made him watch the movie. We made he has not seen a Indiana Jones movie up until right now, so this is the perfect time. We have Richie Goodacre. What's up, Richie?
What's up, man? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it made me, but like it wasn't a chore. It's a great movie. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Nice.
right.
That's awesome.
That's what we've been trying to tell you, Richie.
Yeah.
That's all good, man. Thanks for
Trying
joining
to
us,
tell
man.
you it's a good movie, Ma.
Yeah,
That's a totally different movie, but anyways.
yeah.
But yeah, so we can get into this thing. So
So I was going to start out with a question for everybody, and it kind of
yeah,
relates to our histories of the movie. So I was going to go around the horn, everybody's kind of general history, or in Richie's case, unhistory with the movie, and maybe how that happened too. Like because I think it's interesting. So, Jordan, do you remember when the first time you saw it is, or kind of roughly, or your history of the movie?
yeah. I probably saw it when I was probably way too young to see it. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I do remember sitting with my parents watching it at home and being really scared near the end when they open that arc and all the faces start to melt, I'm like, man, this is dark. Like, oh, that it gave me nightmares. So it's probably about like 1990 or something. So I was about like 5 or 6 years old the first time I saw it. I was pretty young. So.
Yeah, no, I had the movies. My parents bought me the trilogy on VHS after Last Crusade came out, and they put out like a box set. And for that reason, I just watched these. It's this and the Star Wars trilogy and the Back to the Future trilogy. Watching all these over and over and over again. So Spielberg and Lucas, that sort of thing have been in my life. Since I was a little kid, and like I said, between that and cable, yeah, I've seen these movies hundreds of times and things like that. So, Richie, your unhistory of this movie, maybe how it just kind of eluded you over the years, and and just start out by giving us maybe your overall thoughts, and we'll get into more specific stuff, obviously, but give us kind of your overall thoughts on the movie now that you have seen it.
Well, yeah, like sort of I guess my unhistory would just be like, I think sometimes I mean, especially like in this sort of movie climate, sometimes where like I am weary of I get like people can go very like people can go gangbusters where it comes to like very overhyping movie, and I get and so like when I'm like and like when my expectations are up here, like it's
Right.
like, oh man, I don't want to be disappointed. Where it's like, but if someone's like, oh, this movie's all right, I'm like, oh, at least my expectations can go somewhere. It can either be or up there. So it's like when it's like this movie's sort of lauded as one of the best ever. I'm like, oh man, I want to get to it, but I don't want to. I don't want to feel like digging. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I didn't like it as much as it. But yeah, so I was like, so it was just like one of those things where I'm like, I'll get so get to it eventually, but but yeah, look, I'm glad I got to it. This was I think this was probably I think it was meant to happen. It was destiny, if you will, dial of destiny.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. There you go.
So, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, this is the type of Spielberg I like. Like this is a big epic idea. Every action set piece was like amazing. Indy's a great hero. Yes. I also like this movie would make a good game. I know that they did make a game of one of the Indies ones, but it wasn't
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember being all right, but yeah.
Well, they made an N64 game. I forget the title of it. They've made some games on the Nintendo, things like that. They even had an Atari game at one point, one or two arcade games.
They even had a Lego one. They had
the Lego game is kind of the closest thing to the movies as far as like you just kind of recreating a lot of the scenes from
that one's cool because they use all the original music. They're able to use it in the Lego.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's like the Batman games uses the '89 music, and Star Wars can use all that music, so that stuff is cool. But yeah, it's a movie I think it could get overhyped just because Richie, when you're on all of our shows and everybody's doing their top 64s and it's on everybody's favorite movie tournaments, brackets, and you're kind of going, am I missing out on something, now, or is it, am I going to watch it and going to be disappointed? Like I could understand that.
Yeah. So because there's been times before where I'm like, like I finally got to something. I'm like, oh yeah, it's okay. Like I don't know, like obviously to a much lesser extent, but the one that came up recently is like that people praise a lot is like, I don't know, like Father of the Bride, and like I think I was with you in the sense, so like I watched it. It was like it's okay, but like people like laud that as like one of Steve Martin's better films. So I'm like, no, he's got like a lot. There's a lot of better films in his filmography, but like but it's just it's just taste. But so sometimes I'm just like just weary of the hype thing. But like this deserves this hype. So I guess if enough people, I guess if it just comes down to like if there's people who like who maybe you vibe with like in movie taste wise, like me and you Austin usually do. So and if you praise it, then probably more than likely it's probably I'm gonna be pretty good. So no, it was really good. I enjoyed a lot of it. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think probably a lot of it works because, like, he was still in the physical. He was obviously, it's probably what, like mid to late 30s still at this point. He could still do
I
that.
think Harrison was like 38 or 39. He wasn't as young as you might think he was.
Yeah, I
during
know,
this
because
movie. And Jordan's having some technical issues, so I'll just keep it going here. He might have to do a restart. But yeah, he was like 38 or 39 in this. Steve Spielberg's in his 30s. I mean, it's a relatively young crew. George Lucas is still a pretty young guy when him and Spielberg and Lawrence Kasdan sat in a room for like a week and hashed out this entire thing via storyboards and recorded all their ideas and basically hashed out every major set piece of the movie. And yeah, but Harrison looks it, he can do it, like he looks young, but even then they still play him in this movie like he's been through the ringer a little bit. If you remember, like when him and Marion are like on the boat, after the truck sequence, on
yeah.
ship, and he's like, it's not the years, honey, it's the mileage. And it's like, oh, he's been through a whole bunch of adventures like this. This is just, he's even kind of, been through the ringer at this point, Richie.
Yeah. No, I guess for that point I was like, mate, it's like, he's still, I mean, he's, because, I know that, I think famously, like, Harrison Ford started his acting career kind of later than maybe other people would, because I think when he was Han Solo, he was like 35 or whatever. So, but he was still in the condition where he can do that stuff. So but like, I don't know how an 80-year-old Indiana Jones is gonna go for it with Dial of Destiny. So I'm like, the cool thing about this is like, that's cool that seeing Indy do this stuff. Where I was like, I feel like maybe, I feel like while in Indy might, in this new one might do some of the things, I feel like he might pawn a lot of the stunts off to like Phoebe Waller-Bridge or something, or some of the other people.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean,
man, that froze so bad for me that it crashed my whole freaking internet, because I have to remember to close out my Photoshop before I start these things, because my Photoshop takes up a lot of like RAM and memory and stuff. So anyways,
that's so good. No, we're just talking about
we're talking about Harrison and the age he's at this movie. Like he's like 38, 39 years old, which oddly enough, I'm like 37 now, so it's weird.
Yeah,
it's almost the same age that Harrison Ford is in this movie. It's a little odd. But yeah, no, it's like a perfect kind of, we can kind of get into the movie, but when we first get introduced to Indy in this, like, it's one of the great opening scenes of all time, and in a thing where I think Spielberg's kind of known for amazing opening scenes. I mean, you think about the opening scene of Jaws, with the girl in the water, and this one, and you think about Saving Private Ryan, and even Jurassic Park, with the Velociraptor, the opening sequence, for really grabbing you and kind of laying out the world that he's starting with. And yeah, this one kind of perfectly, sets up Indy as this smart guy who's resourceful and knows what he's doing, and he's nobody's ever come out of there alive, except for Indy.
Well, like even more so, like when I watch it, like it is a great effing character reveal, because you see him kind of come out of the shadows, like before he even goes in the cave, he just walks out and is not necessarily playing any kind of Indiana Jones. He's just kind of playing something dark, where like you're like, who is this guy? Like we don't know that. Was this a good guy? Is it a bad guy? Like, what's going to happen here? Like you almost kind of wonder.
Well, even the dynamics around him, they're doing this treasure hunt, obviously, and some of those guys kind of run away when they start seeing, the signs of the tribe kind of being around, and even Alfred Molina, we should say, in the opening scene. This is his first movie. Doc Ock is in this opening. I don't know if you recognized him, Richie.
That's what it was. All right,
that's Alfred Molina, who goes in the cave with him. He talks famously about this movie. Even most recently, there's another YouTube clip floating around of him on like a podcast talking about that scene about him, the guy, the spider wranglers, and doing all this stuff, and getting auditioning for this role and getting it. But you don't know who this guy is necessarily. Like, he's with these guys, and then one guy just like pulls a gun on him, but he has the whip, and he like whips the guy and he runs away. You're just like, what is going on here? Like, they're looking for something, and obviously he gets it through his like we talked about, just a genius opening scene of him avoiding all these booby traps and getting kind of betrayed by Alfred Molina, and but him getting his on the way out, and and getting, and
he's like, throw me the whip, Indy, throw me the whip. You throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip.
Throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip. And and as we'll see a lot through this series, not to spoil a lot, Richie, but him acquiring something and getting it taken away almost immediately, you know, through various methods, you know, like he has a high and then an immediate low with Belloc, who we should say Richie's probably seen his other most famous movie before this movie with Paul Freeman as Ivan Ooze.
Oh yeah, Ivan.
Paul Freeman as Belloc, you know, and then his other kind of
That's right. That is him in
movie.
Power Rangers.
Yeah, is Ivan Ooze in the Power Rangers movie.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought so. And he's hamming it up in this too. He likes it.
Oh, he's having a good time. Yeah,
he's having a good time.
Yeah, he's and it's funny. There's a story about him where Spielberg called him back from like a vacation just to ask him if he could do a French accent because he's a British actor, and he's like, "Yeah, of course I can do a French accent." And he did it for him. You know, getting called on his holiday in like a hotel room, and then immediately was like, "All right, we're good. you can leave now." And like, and so he goes back and does his character. But kind of a rival archaeologist, you know, and he's an interesting villain because you know he's not necessarily a Nazi per se, but he's using the Nazis to kind of acquire, you know, the thing he wants to acquire, and you know, which puts him over the line of being a bad guy, but you know, working with the wrong people. But you know, he's not necessarily a guy who's well. I mean, he's willing to kill Indy, but you know, to kill to get his ways. But you know, he's not quite on that Nazi side.
Yeah.
No, I feel like, I mean, like Marion is like the sort of the classic like trope of like I mean, you know, the damsel in distress. Like she gets kidnapped here more than Peach and Mario. That's like every like and like I was like, she's student taken again. Oh, she's taken. Okay, cool. It's like but you know.
Well, I wouldn't call her necessarily a classic damsel in distress, though. I think you'll get that in Temple of Doom, Richie, which we'll talk about at the end of the show.
Yeah.
More so with Kate Capshaw in that movie, because at least in this movie, she's fighting alongside Indy in the marketplace. She's fighting in the bar. She's kind of a tough chick. She can hold her liquor.
Yeah. Like she's definitely like kind of a badass. And then there was that scene towards the end where like she's on that turret. And
the turret gun. Yeah, she's in the airplane shooting the machine guns. You know, she doesn't just sit there. And you know, just
she holds her own
around. She holds her own, but I mean, she gets kidnapped. But she's also most of the scene where she gets kidnapped, she's overwhelmed by multitudes of people. You know what I mean?
I guess so.
It's you know,
I like her because she's like sassy. She doesn't take any shit from anyone. But yet she is still kind of the damsel in distress with how many times she gets kidnapped. But I mean, she can hold her own. But she's also like tough and like willing to get gritty and dirty, but then she's also sexy, like all that stuff. She's a great actor, much better than any other of the damsels in the other movies, I would say.
I mean, I have to say, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a dude. So at the end, but like, you know, Karen Allen in this movie is really hot. She is hot. But yeah, I did like how like in the marketplace, like she lures this dude like inside and just hits him over the head with a pan. That was funny.
And realistically, she should have just hit in the spot where she pulled the guy into, because they would have run right by her instead of hiding in that little basket or whatever that she does. But I mean, if you look in the background when they first attack them in the marketplace, Indy's doing most of the fighting, but she's got one guy over on the side and she's hitting him with stuff like another guy over and over again. I mean, she's still trying, you know what I mean? Like she's doing her thing.
Yeah.
She got some fun scenes because even like, I guess she owns a bar in like Nepal or something like that. And you see her kind of doing the like drinking game where they like drink the shot and then they like set it down. And like she's going toe to toe with a guy that's like 3 times her size and like out drinks him, and then when the Nazis come, like she holds her own pretty well. Indy has to come back in to kind of help her out, but I mean, after that little kind of like medallion thing, the hole in the middle, but she really holds her own. So yeah, she's great.
Well, it's a great little thing with the drinking. You know, a great little setup that actually wasn't originally going to have to be called back later, but there was a whole thing where Marion was supposed to put on that dress at some point, but she was asking like, why would she be in a dress, out in the middle of the desert? And her and Paul Freeman actually improvised most of the scene that they have when they're kind of drinking back and forth and sort of flirting with each other, where she pretends to be drunk and she's not actually drunk, obviously, because we know she can hold her liquor, but they kind of made it to where it tied back to that original scene where she uses that as kind of a bluff, to try to escape. It was kind of a cool sequence they came up with, and him giving her the dress, or basically telling her, put it on, you're not going anywhere, put it on, like whatever. Yeah. And I think he lies to her, by the way. You know how he says, like, the desert is 3 weeks in every direction if you're trying to escape. But then during the truck sequence, they don't drive that far before they get to that marketplace where he hides. Like, they're not
right.
like, there's people along the road. They run into the people, working on that building or, on those awnings. Like, I don't think there's like nobody around whatsoever. I think that's more of like a like not.
And in order for him to know that it's 3 weeks, that he would have to do he had to do that trek, unless he like.
Yeah,
looked it up. You don't know, didn't have Google back then, did he? Yeah, so,
right.
But I did like. I mean, you could tell like maybe the marketplace scene kind of inspired a lot of maybe other kind of. It is cool just seeing that action scene, like set piece in the marketplace. I think that kind of inspired like other movie series that, like, I think of like like Aladdin, obviously, like the marketplace being there. Right. But yeah, like like. The Rock's Jumanji, there's a marketplace thing in there, but yeah, I think that I think this kind of inspired like that. It's kind of cool because like a marketplace is kind of, there's a lot of bedlam in there in general, a lot of people walking around, so it's kind of cool, kind of people dodging and weaving all these traffic of people, and also having to get away from all the the bad guys and stuff. It's a conducive for a good action scene. So yeah.
Well, it even inspires things like even like Aladdin, I'd say, because it's a guy running around with a monkey. They got a monkey again, and
the monkey.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
he's a Nazi monkey who can do the salute.
Yeah, right. Which is funny. Yeah,
a little shitty Nazi monkey.
But like one of the things I really like about this movie is the pacing. I think this is one of the most well-paced movies like ever made. Like it's just like every single scene, even scenes that you think would be like boring, where just at the college, he's talking to some professors, or like teaching, and all the girls are like swooning over him. They're like this kind of just like.
And if you notice, most of the people in the class when they leave, it's like all girls except for one guy.
Yeah, one day.
It's literally like, and all the girls you can tell are just signing up for the class because he's the hot professor.
And then. And like literally, you even have a scene that takes place at Indy's house where the guy Marcus from the college comes over and is like telling him about the
Ark.
Yeah, the Ark. Yeah, and he's like, you sound like my mother. What are you trying to do? Scare me? Like, I don't believe in magic and all that superstitious hocus pocus. The thing is, like, going after all these religious items, but he doesn't give a shit about that. That he just wants to protect them and put them in a museum. And so. I think that's kind of cool that, like, along with big action set pieces, you get some smaller ones, but they don't feel just boring. They don't really drag. They just they just work. Like, it just works really well. Even like when they talk about Marion, like I kind of like that they don't really just kind of throw Marion in there. Like he mentioned Marion, and then Indy like stopped, and he's like, yeah. So Marion's gonna be there, huh? And then like his little moment where we kind of reminisce, making you like realize that she's going to be an important character, so watch for this character. They do little things like that I really like.
I think the exposition scene, the kind of dump where he gets Porkins from Star Wars and the other guy come to give him his little mission essentially from the government, is a master class in how to do good exposition, because it's there's a couple of dynamics going on there where Marcus is watching Indy spout his knowledge and shows that, Indy knows about all this stuff. He doesn't necessarily believe everything, but he knows all the myths. He knows all the legends. He knows all the folklore. He knows all the religious stuff. And then also, you have the one government guy who kind of believes it, but the other government guy, the Porkins, who doesn't, necessarily believe it. And they're kind of skeptical and thinks Abner is it might be a Nazi himself. But it's just a masterclass in like really setting everything up and not making it to where like here's the exposition dump, here's the other exposition dump. It's actually fascinating and interesting, and a lot of stuff comes back, with them showing the picture of the Ark and the power of God that we'll see later, and him knowing all this stuff, again, not necessarily believing it, but when he knows it and things start to happen, he knows what to do, and it really informs the characters rather than just being spouting dialogue. You know what I mean? Like it's actually expanding.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean they do it in a way where it's like, and also it's like, it's not like, not too complicated. Like there's not like so much like exposition or like there's so much like detail where okay, like they don't throw so much like detail either. Where okay, I can't, I don't know, you've lost me. I can't follow. Oh, okay, this connects to that, but that, you know what I mean? Like it's sometimes, yeah. Look, I'll tie it to a recent movie. As much as I liked the new Spider-Man in this out, sometimes it's just like, oh, but the reveals and that, like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this, like
It's like way too quick. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get you, yeah, but yeah, it just takes a while. But yeah, this is easily kind of
No,
explained.
they lay it all out, and it's very simple. The Nazis are looking for stuff for Hitler in the desert. They think they know where the Ark is, but they don't have all the information. Indy has some of the puzzle pieces, to fill in the information where they're kind of in the general area, but they're not there. You know that the Ark has some kind of power, or we might see some kind of power, but you don't really know what it is. We just kind of get an idea of what it is, and that Indy, kind of has done his research. He knows what to do if he can get his hands on the thing, and we got to go get our first MacGuffin, which is we got to go get our little amulet thing, from Marion. And then even Marion herself is kind of a MacGuffin throughout the movie, being chased, from location to location in a way, but we got to go to this place to get. It's very video game like. It's like here's your cut scene that starts your mission. Okay, we're gonna start in. We're going to start in Cairo, and then we're going to go, have this little action scene, and then we're going to go to the actual Sahara Desert, and then we're going to, do our stuff there, and we're going to figure out where it is within the place and do our map room sequence, which that sequence is awesome, by the way. It really shows how great Indy is at his job in the map room, like finding the right hole to put everything in and the sun hitting it. Like, it's just a really cool scene.
Yeah.
And then the actual Well of Souls, and it just shows also just, you watch this movie, man, and it's like everything. It's just what I love about these old movies. Everything's real. Like, it's just real.
Yeah.
We're
Real
in
practical.
We're in the desert with like hundreds of extras. It's a massive set. You get a thing like the Well of Souls where the Ark actually is, a massive set with real snakes everywhere. There's 6,000 snakes down there in this thing that they brought in for this thing. Real Ark. Everything's there. The music, it all just works.
Yeah. I mean, the one scene I've sort of obviously seen before because it's iconic, but it's still amazing is when Indy felt like kind of reconnect the sort of whatever with Marion, and you see like the shadow of the hat.
Oh yeah.
That's still amazing. I'm like, oh, that looks dope. That's just such a cool way to kind of introduce this.
Well, it's like every single scene in this is like I just think like masterpiece, and like filmmaking, the way that it's done just over and over again. To like the marketplace scene, or like the stunts when they're doing the car chases, or the Well of Souls, or like they finally open the Ark, like just everything, the way that it's done, it's just so well done. Even like the smaller scenes, like we mentioned already, they're just done so well that it's just like, man, like they don't do movies like that anymore.
Even like at the end of the cut thing, when like Indy gets shot, and like immediately there's blood splatter on the window.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone gets shot and they'll just like sort of leak it. But no, I think that would happen. There'd be blood on the. There'd be blood on. Yeah, so it was. I don't know. I thought that effect was kind of cool because it looked, kind of realistic.
That's another thing that's great about the movies too, is that these movies are actually bloody. You see like the whole tarmac scene, which I love kind of seeing that. If you've been to Walt Disney World, seen some of the Indiana Jones live show, like the tarmac scene, the big boulder scene, they recreate some of that. But like in that, you see people get shot and you see blood. You see the guy get his head like literally sliced by a propeller. I mean, they cut away, but you see the blood splatter.
The blood spatters on the plane. It spatters on the side on the rudder. Like the blood when he gets hit by the propeller. No, you don't have to show him literally getting a shredded body, but like you see the blood spatter go everywhere immediately. It's probably disgusting that if we were to look back at the body, it would be a mangled mess. And that's Pat Roach. That's Pat Roach, by the way, who he fights on the by the airplane, the big bald guy, and he shows up throughout the entire series. He was a professional wrestler, Richie. Pat the Bomber Roach, and he's a big dude, big British dude, and he's actually also in in the bar scene in Nepal, he's kind of the big guy. He has the kind of fist fight with in the bar.
Yeah.
You know, that's him just under a beard and hat and all that. And then he's the main guy. He has the fight scene with on the airplane. You'll see him in Temple of Doom. If you watch Temple of Doom, he has a big fight scene with him there. But yeah, he's a big and that's a cool dynamic because there's so much going on when you talk about that airplane sequence. There's so much going on where Spielberg keeps layering things onto the scene, like more and more danger getting added.
Yeah.
So it's already a scene where they have to kind of trying to sneak onto this plane, and then the one mechanic guy discovers him. Okay, so he's fighting with the mechanic guy, right? But he's a little guy. He kind of handles it. But then Pat Roach comes in. So there's a bigger guy who's a much better fighter who jabs him one time and he gets wobbly legs. You know, oh shit, this guy's good. And then you have the pilot who's shooting at him anytime he pops out from the other thing, and Marion takes him out. Then Marion gets locked into the cockpit, and then some other Nazis are showing up as Indy's still trying to fight the other guy, and she's shooting this guy.
Goodness uses the guns, yeah.
But then she uses the guns, and she accidentally opens up the gas thing. So now there's gas coming towards the thing, and there's fire, you know. And so now there's another layer of dynamic. And Pat Roach is still running around trying to fight him, you know. Like it's just it adds and adds and adds and adds and builds, and it's a really cool dynamic the way Spielberg's able to balance all that stuff. Again, just masterclass, and how he's able to balance everything. You're never lost in the scene. It's just building and building and building, and you're aware of the danger as it goes.
I
feel like not a lot of directors could like pull that off, like the way Spielberg does.
Or it just gets jumbled in editing, or just jump cuts.
Yeah,
you're never lost as to where all the characters are and what they're doing in each scene. You know what I mean?
Because like I imagine myself being the director on the set. All right, now you come over here, you go over there, and you're fighting this guy, and then you're going to be in the plane, you're going to be shooting, and there's going to be gas coming here. And he's like, he has to coordinate all that stuff. I mean, with a few other people, but I mean, he's the mastermind. So yeah, like that is not easy. So yeah.
Wasn't it the only other scene I knew of just because I knew trivia about it? There was that scene where I think it's in the marketplace, but it might be afterwards. Where there's this dude that like. He basically has a duel with this dude, and this dude that's got a whip, but he just
totally.
He just shoots him. But apparently, apparently Harrison Ford is really sick.
Well, everybody was sick. So there's a whole thing, Richie, about how they were all in Tunisia and they're all out, near the desert or whatever, and everybody except for Spielberg. Ate at the restaurants, nearby, and was like drinking all the water and stuff. And everybody got like at some point or another dysentery or food poisoning, or something to where they were all sick and pooping themselves. And even John Rhys Davies at one point shit himself during one take. He talks about it. But yeah, that whole sequence came about where they had actually, Richie, mapped out and practiced an entire fight scene where it was going to be Indy and his whip versus this guy and his giant sword. But that day, everybody other than Spielberg was sick, including all the stunt people. Harrison Ford was sick, and Harrison Ford literally looked at it. It was one of his ideas, and he looks at Spielberg and goes, "Why don't I just shoot the son of a bitch?" And so it kind of came about this thing where they were gonna have this thing, but they laid it all out and they made some adjustments or whatever, where he still kind of shows off the thing, and it becomes one of the great moments in cinema history where he just pulls the gun and shoots the guy. And it's great, and it's awesome.
It's like almost the most iconic scene in the movie besides the opening, it's almost,
it's just and it becomes one of the great things, and that shows again Spielberg's eye for like what can make a great scene out of certain situations. Obviously he had done that before in Jaws, where the shark famously didn't work for most of the movie, so he had to kind of adjust the way we see the shark, and he was able to still create a really compelling movie. And that's like another thing where, okay, this didn't work, or we got a problem with this, that, and the other. There was also stuff in Tunisia where they were supposed to shoot there for 6 weeks, and everybody was so hot and so miserable to where they were literally out in the desert. It's like 110 degrees in the shade. That's in the shade. It's blazingly hot. Everybody's uncomfortable, to where he actually adjusted things, and they shot it in 4.5 weeks instead of 6. And we're able to get out of there because everybody just wanted to get it done and get out of there. So he's going to be trying to be as efficient as possible. But yeah, all the different problems on the set, but not that many problems. But yeah, it just showed that the meticulous way that Spielberg laid it out again in the storyboards. Every single shot, every angle, he had already laid out in all these storyboards and all these things. So he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and exactly how to do it. And that just goes even in the the truck sequence, which for my money, the truck the truck sequence, you could argue, might be one of the greatest top 10 action scenes of all time.
Oh yeah, it is so good.
It's an incredible sequence, and I was watching it again yesterday, and just watching in particular the stuntmen, you know what I mean, and like what they're doing in the scene, and like the actual every guy, because there's multiple of them. And I have a book with a guy named Vic Armstrong, who they call the world's greatest stuntman, and it's him and Terry Leonard, who were kind of the main stunt guys, the stunt coordinators on this, and what they did with the sequence. Man, you watch certain things, man, like
they're falling hard.
The progression of this stuff, you know, you got at one point, you got, you know, again, it's real cars, real trucks. You got at one point, 8 guys hanging on the side of this truck, you know, while it's going back and forth, you know what I mean? Like real dudes getting knocked off with the trees and the bushes, guys taking big falls. I mean, they're landing on padded areas and, you know, dirt and stuff, but it's still stuntmen falling off.
They're not landing on cotton, they're landing on
But if you fall off the wrong way, you can still get very, very hurt. And, you know, and then the one main sergeant guy like crawls on the top of the thing, and they're swinging into the windows and, you know, kicking each other, and they're still having these fight scenes. And obviously the sequence that builds to, you know, Indiana Jones getting flipped over the front of the truck and doing the actual underneath, you know,
when he goes underneath, where like
you think it can't get any better, and then he goes underneath the damn truck and he's getting dragged, and it's amazing. And you're just like, what? And it's still
he's waiting for his back to be on fire or something after that.
Yeah,
and then he has the whip and he latches on with the whip and pops out the other side, and he's being dragged behind the
still
truck.
Being dragged by a truck. Yeah. I mean, even as safe as you can possibly make it, it's still a stunt guy getting dragged by a truck, you know, by a rope essentially. And how, by the way, Richie, how they had to do the dragging of the thing is, if you'll notice, if you go back and watch the movie, he's a little bit more under the truck than he normally would be. They had to dig a trench like a mile long that's like 4 inches deep, because there wasn't enough clearance under the truck for him to actually get pulled under the truck. So they dug like this trench so they could do it over and over again. And so he's doing the whole thing, and he's scooting along the way. So he's still being pulled by the truck, but he's in a trench. And then, but man, I was watching it this time, and after he's getting dragged, the stuntman pulls himself up near the truck, and in one shot pulls himself into the back, jumps out under the side of the thing, climbs quickly into the side, and swings back into the front, all in like one shot. And I'm just like, what? You know how much skill that takes to not just slip and fall off the truck, you know, it's at any point.
It's impossible.
And you're just like, what? Yeah. And even the little details of, like you said, him getting shot in the arm, but then the sergeant guy seeing that and exploiting him, like punching him in his arm.
Punching it,
even just the little details. Even little details I love.
That's a good old school like wrestling heel thing, you know. You exploit the weak.
He's working on he's working him over. He's working the heat. You know what I mean? Like he's working over the injured body part. Like it's great, and it's just everything. The music is pumping. Dum 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 dum.
And then finally, when he knocks all the guys out, like Indy just floors it, like he's after Belloc, and like that like indie theme just kind of just like goes in the, like full drive, dun, 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 and he's just flying
him off the road. It's such a perfect button on a great sequence. I mean, for my money, like if you ever get a battleground question, Richie, what's the greatest action sequence ever filmed? I might argue that might be the greatest action sequence of all time. Just the way, again, the practicality of it, the work that went into it is incredible.
It's I might actually, you know, try to get it like on like Blu-ray or 4K or whatever, just see if there's like maybe extras to, you know.
100% there are extras. Yeah, there's all kinds of making of stuff.
Making of stuff just to to see, you know, just the kind of ins and outs of everything, because that the truck sequence is amazing. So I would, you know, I probably at some point, if I get time today, I'll probably just watch the truck sequence again.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just literally watch it and watch all the different actual dudes like hanging on the truck and what they do, like in and around and falling around, and, you know, back inside and out. Like it's incredible. And the two guys that they got, they dressed him up so good and actually looked so much like Harrison Ford that a lot of it isn't Harrison Ford. Some of it is, and a couple of things are, but they look just like him, so you almost don't even notice like as much as you know. Some you can notice, like T2. There's that infamous thing where they jump the motorcycle and it's clearly the stunt man. You know, it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he doesn't even look like him. But this one it really does.
Well, that's another thing that I love is all the costumes too. Like they give the main characters an awesome costume, but they give the stuntman, they give everyone. But it's like, who doesn't want to have an Indiana Jones leather jacket and a fedora and a whip. I mean, that's freaking awesome right there. But then, like, I think that like all the Nazi uniforms, they look great, especially that guy.
Tote.
I was gonna look at the tote. Yeah.
The guy in black.
Arnold. Yeah, Arnold Tote. Like he looks like a total just like when I envision a Nazi kind of like a general guy. I mean, he's going around saying Fräulein and all that stuff. Like that guy. He's got a great look to him. All the people in the marketplace, just like from beginning to end, like it's just really really cool. Even all the dresses for like Marion, like those work like super well too. So yeah, like on like every level, I can't think of like any aspect of like filmmaking where they did anything subpar. Like it's just like they're on their A game for everything. So yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, it probably. I mean, yeah, it's sort of like tells you. And I mean, also, Mad Max Fury Road could tell you this too, because I mean, there were sort of. I guess there was. I got Mad Max vibes, especially in the truck scene too, just because like the desolate kind of.
Well, they came out the same year as far as this and the Road Warrior, which has most of the kind of crazy, vehicle sequences. But they both came out in '81. So you have two great years with two great practical car chases and crazy car stuff essentially.
But I'm just saying that there's probably it's an argument for like sticking with practical effects when you can, like CGI whatever has its place, but sometimes it's like there's an over reliance on it. Sometimes where it's like it's like that could have been I don't know. That could have been better if you worked out some practicalities there. But sometimes it's just CGI or whatever else, and it just takes away from the scene. And I feel like maybe that was one of the many issues maybe with King. I haven't seen it yet, but King of the Crystal Skull or like maybe the new one. I don't know. But I mean, there's probably issues with the new one and the fact that he's older, but like too old to do this stuff. But I just think there's like I wish that we would see more practical effects in action films, because I think they work better than the average CGI, even though I think they have its place. But yeah.
Oh no! Now, like if you see like a Marvel movie, somebody's hanging off a car, then the back, the background is CG. They're clearly on some stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Hanging on like a half of a car. That's like sort of half there. They're on wires. As opposed to these guys who were literally they're driving and they're climbing all over this truck, but it's because they trust there's a stunt driver driving the truck. There's these stunt guys who know what they're doing. They all work together and work together to create something great. They all have to trust each other and know what they're doing. And because that's another thing with that scene where he's getting dragged is there's a stunt guy driving that truck, and if he deviates it at all, he's going to get thrown into the wheels. You know what I mean? Like you have to trust even the guy driving the truck. Like the stunt driver, who's doing all that stuff. So yeah, it's incredible. What they do with that, and all the practical explosions. The only thing that's like, kind of, a little dated is some of the superimposed, background stuff like the lightning. When there's
I was going to mention that the only thing that kind of looked a bit like bit green screeny was when he was outside, there was lightning. I'm like, oh, that kind of I was like, that looks a bit
a little bit, but I think that they do a great job setting up that big action, the like truck chase scene, because you see him all together, and he's like, get us to England on a boat, on a plane, anything. Just meet me at Omar's. I'm going after the truck. He's like, how? He's like, I don't know. Just make this up as I go.
It's very similar to Han Solo. He's very similar to Han Solo in a couple of ways, where Han Solo in that original Star Wars movie is like running around with Chewie, and they're just like, I don't know, we're making it up as we go, essentially like, chasing the stormtroopers around, on the Death Star and just kind of making shit up, and they're kind of similar in that way.
In the next scene that you see, it's like, boom, he's on a horse and he's like galloping as fast as he can after these trucks. So that's another cool thing that they also added a horse to that chase. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they do the classic thing of the old serials from the actual 1930s, where it was that classic image, and what it kind of inspired the movie of the hero kind of jumping from a horse onto a truck. Like that was kind of the inspiration for the whole sequences. Well, what if we did that, but also then took it 80 steps further, from that, not just a guy jumping from a horse onto a car, which is still a great stunt, overall, and always is. But what if we take it even further than that? So yeah, it's just something.
I think people even forget that like beyond the like truck stuff, you even have like a boat scene where the Nazis come onto the boat when they're trying to get back to England or wherever they're headed to, and when Nazis come onto to their ship, he has to try to find a way to get over to their submarine or whatever their little battleship submarine thing is, and because they took the Ark, so he's going to go get it. There's a famously deleted scene where you see Harrison Ford going across the water and almost freezing to death, going across the water to get to the boat. But in the actual movie, they don't show that. Like all of a sudden, he's just on the boat and you see him just kind of going after him. But it's fun because everyone on the boat just came from there, like cheering him on. Yeah, this is our hero. They're like go get him, Indy. Woo! They're like whooping it up and stuff. And then he does a good job of like sneaking onto the boat to go along with them wherever they're going. So
yeah. Well, and we should talk about the actual kind of climactic sequence, with the when they actually open the Ark. And what I love about the 80s is all the practical kind of, it plays like a horror scene, when it actually plays out, and it's really great, like the way it plays with like the actual, we should say, the beams of light going everywhere. It looks like Ghostbusters with like the
almost like spirits or something.
The spirits, and all the beams and things and that kind of stuff, and then obviously the guys, getting their faces melted and squeezed, together, and heads exploding, and it's it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed this, Austin, but like it's something I just noticed it, and then I was watching a review. I went and watched Chris Stuckman's review. He reviewed Raiders of the Lost Ark, and like he mentioned it too. There's a scene before they open it where like Paul Freeman, he's so dedicated to the scene. He's like so in character. I'm pretty sure that a fly just flies in his mouth and that goes in there, and like he doesn't even move. He doesn't even bat an eye. Just keeps going with the scene. I'm like that guy just straight up G. Like he just keeps on going, like right in character.
Where he's Indy confronts them with like the rocket launcher, and he goes, "Your persistence surprises even me." If you look at his lip, there's a fly that goes into his mouth as he says.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? That went in his mouth. Didn't come out.
But Richie, we were talking about what you think of like the actual climactic scene where they open the Ark and you get all the gnarly like 80s like poltergeisty kind of effects and the face melting and all that kind of stuff.
The face melting, that was great. Yeah, it was very kind of the body horror-ish kind of like I enjoyed it. I think I'd seen that scene.
I'm sure you've seen it somewhere. Like
I've seen it out of context somewhere. I didn't realize it was attributed to this movie. But yeah, it was that was great. Yeah, I wasn't because I wasn't expecting it, especially in a movie that was not a PG movie. Again, you could probably I think that they were a bit more bold and daring that and get with a PG-13 rating back then, and that's cool. That's cool. I liked it. I was just like, it was very it reminded me of like things like like there's creatures like in like was it the Peter Jackson movie? Was it Brain Dead? No,
Dead Alive, Brain Dead.
Yeah, just like, but just I love that effects. Yeah, and it just threw me so I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, I just like it. Just how they were kind of to use a phrase like hoisted by their own petard in the sense that they found the thing that ultimately only came back to bite them, and then
it was their downfall.
melted.
And it's such a great reveal because it's like they refer to it as you see that picture in the book that he shows when he's talking to the government guys, and it's like you see the people kind of falling over with the power of God, the light coming out, but when it actually plays out, it's way more horrific than the book portrays it to be, obviously.
Right.
But it's also Indy again and his using his brains as far as like he knows, he can see the signs of what's about to happen. And while, before he didn't believe it, he knows some weird shit's about to go down, and when it starts to happen, he knows what to do and, tells him not to look at it, and it's great. And the reveal of, the beautiful spirit woman or whatever, kind of floating everybody and then turning into like the angel of death. And Toad's got a great scream in that scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
just-
yeah,
like it's just wonderful. It's
Yeah.
so great.
yeah.
He's the best. No,
I reckon that the makeup department would have had fun making those like, prosthetic, the
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
the sort of.
Well,
so-
they made how they did that is they did these plaster casts of everybody, obviously. So the guy who's playing Tote, Ron Lacey, like they made a cast of his face, and the other guy, the Dietrich guy, that gets his face like squeezed, like almost like the life sucked out, where it's like it's almost
Yeah.
vacuum sucked out of him or something. They made
Yeah.
casts of everybody, and then they just made like these models or whatever, and yeah, the Tote one they it was like layer after layer of like fake blood and then like bone and all this kind of stuff, and then they just melted it, with like this heat and just and then they sped it up, so like
Yeah.
just melt it down. It's great and it's so awesome. And then you get a great head explosion. Who doesn't love a good head explosion?
Yeah, right.
You love a good head explosion. So
Yeah. It's always
A little
So,
fun fact too is that this movie probably would have been rated R, but I think that like even that scene got a little toned down. There were some things they were going to show of like Belloc actually like exploding himself and like.
Well,
and,
what they had to
those
do was they had
things.
to superimpose the fire over him
Yeah.
for when they exploded him, so it wasn't just a straight like bloody explosion. So they kind of
Yeah.
superimposed like the fire getting consumed with like the fire or whatever, and then shooting out, so that they could avoid the R rating. But it's also Spielberg; he had a lot of power around that time. He
Yeah.
was making a lot of money for the studio, and but he was you'll see some even gnarlier stuff in Temple of Doom, that they kind of get away with in that movie, but it kind of led more to the PG-13 thing. This is still a PG movie, which is kind of astonishing. When you see what they get, people getting shot in the head. Like you said, people, blood splatter, people getting
Yeah.
shredded by propellers and blood going everywhere. It's pretty gnarly for a regular PG movie.
But most of it's happening to Nazis, so we all love it because screw Nazis.
Who cares?
Yeah.
That's Nazis.
Yeah. But just a couple of fun facts that to just bring up a few like that. Like I think that it's famously known that originally they wanted to go with the unknown for Indy at first, but then they also were going to cast Tom Selleck to be Indiana Jones, but then they ended up going with Harrison Ford, as well as what's the other guy, Asala. They're going to have
Danny DeVito.
what's his name? Yeah, Danny DeVito. Yeah, as him, but then they went in another direction, which I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I'm glad they didn't go with Tom Selleck. I mean, I think it could have gone either way with Danny DeVito, but I don't know.
Tom Selleck,
with it.
There's screen tests online and in the behind the scenes stuff. There's screen tests with him. Like he screen tested for it, and he was very close to being on it. But the thing was, and same thing with Danny DeVito. Those '80s TV contracts were hard to get out of. Like Danny DeVito was still contracted to Taxi at the time. Tom Selleck was still contracted to Magnum PI, and he couldn't get out of the contract, as far as the shooting schedule. But Tom Selleck was good in the screen test. He's good. So, I mean, like, it could have worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, like, Harrison Ford, obviously, it's hard to imagine anybody but Harrison Ford. But Tom Selleck is very good in those screen tests. Who knows? I mean, there's an alternate universe where Tom Selleck is Indiana Jones, where what's his name is Marty McFly.
Wasn't there a thing too where was it like the TV show Young Indiana Jones? Was it River Phoenix or something? Or like
no, Sean Patrick Flannery from the Boondock Saints is in Young Indiana Jones in the actual TV series, but River Phoenix is in the prologue for Last Crusade when you get there.
Okay,
playing Young Indy in that.
Which I believe that they just barely started dropping some of the Young Indiana Jones onto Disney Plus now, which previously they've never been released anywhere. That like those have been totally like really hard to find. Especially on streaming. This is the first time they've ever come to streaming.
Yeah, I think they had a really crummy DVD at one point. You could buy some of them on DVD, but yeah, they're finally on Disney Plus.
They're actually good.
Yeah,
they're no like on the level of a masterpiece of like Raiders or anything, but they're fun though. Like it's a fun series. So yeah.
Yeah, well, and you get the idea that even from the movies that he's had all these kind of adventures in his younger days. They kind of a lot of people know him. He's got this reputation, so he's been around the world. Once over, he's got friends in different places. Like Sala or and other things that we'll see throughout the other movies. But yeah, so yeah, there's fun facts like that. Yeah, the Tom Selleck thing is interesting. But who knows? If Tom Selleck had been Indiana Jones, maybe we'd be sitting here going, Tom Selleck, I can't imagine anybody but Tom Selleck being Indiana Jones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
We'd be saying the same thing. Like people always say, like I can't imagine whoever, but like if the other person had been and they did an amazing job, we'd probably be saying the same thing. So like, you never know. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Could you? I mean, you know, if when Dial of Destiny comes out, and and if it makes the amount of money it does, whatever, do you see? I mean, I obviously can't imagine them bringing like Harrison Ford back at this point, because Harrison Ford doesn't want to do another one, and he shouldn't. But like, could you see them like rebooting Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past anyone from Disney to reboot or remake anything. So I mean,
Yeah.
it'll probably eventually happen. But I mean, I really hope that in this one that he passes the whip or the torch or whatever to someone else, that we can follow their journey, almost like how like Rocky passes the torch to Adonis Creed, and now we're watching Creed. Like if they can do something like that, that'd be cool. So.
But it'd be a female Indiana Jones, because isn't it like his sort of like
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but I'm
I've heard weird things about her.
I'm hearing not great things
great.
about Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this movie. That she completely is annoying in this movie. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Or how the reception is.
But just a couple of the quick technical things. One of the other things that I just wanted to mention, you really get a sense that this is an adventure story, because they have all those little cut scenes with the airplane that's like flying from like place to place. So we're going from like Nepal, and we're going to Cairo, and then from South America to like some little island. So like those are a lot of fun. I appreciate that they did that. I also want to bring up the music. Like, so for a lot of people, this might be like their favorite piece of movie music that exists. For me, it's close. Like, it's probably in my top 10 or like top 5, maybe even. But like for me, like I get like chills just listening to like some of the music, because I know how good it is, and like even from like stuff that isn't supposed to be really all that emotional, just because I'm such a huge fan of like cinema and of like film. I find myself getting the chill, just being like, damn it, this is so good. Like John Williams is the master, man. Like it's just so amazing. Like, and when I think of like some of the music from Han Solo from Star Wars, there's a lot of similarities. But I think I even like what they do with Indiana Jones even more. Like it's just really, really good stuff.
What's cool about John Williams is he makes these recognizable kind of individual themes that you hear repeatedly throughout the movie, much like what he did with Star Wars. In Star Wars, there's like the Han and Leia music, right? And there's the Imperial March, and then there's the overall Star Wars theme. Like they all play into Star Wars. They all sound similar, like they belong in the same movie, but there are these individual things that he repeats throughout the movie. He does the same thing here, where you have the main kind of Indiana Jones theme, da, 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 da. He uses variations of that throughout the movie. He slows it down, he speeds it up, he plays little snippets of it, in between other music. But there's the Ark theme, like the actual Ark has its own theme, the da, 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 da. The kind of creepier, darker, mysterious theme, that every time they're talking about the Ark, and if you listen, every time they talk about the Ark, you'll hear the Ark theme kind of work its way in, or in the actual scenes where they're exploring, work its way in.
Same with Marion's theme, like even
Marion
when they
has
talk
their
about
own
Marion.
theme, the da, 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 da. It's very whimsical, romantic, kind of in that old school style. And like I said, you have the more, aside from the main theme, like we talk about, like the stuff in the truck sequences, the action sequence, dun 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 dun. It's this very like a classic adventure, building adventure theme, and that's the master, like how John Williams makes all that stuff, but it's all recognizable, and he just uses it perfectly throughout the movie. And how it's again a classic example of how movie music can make a good movie great, or make a great movie a classic, you know what I mean? And how it perfectly complements each other. Like when that dude passes away, and I know he will at some point, he's not immortal, but like it's going to be a real loss for movies in general, because man, he's just he made the best of everything. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, knows his stuff.
There was a clip online of like John Williams live at like where like he's performing a bunch of his music live, and then Steven Spielberg comes out, and they literally play a clip, I think, like maybe even from Raiders or from one of the like Indiana Jones movie. They play it without the music on.
Oh,
and then,
I know what clip you're talking. So he plays a clip from E.T. So
oh
what
yeah, that's what it is.
he's talking about E.T. and he's talking
Yeah,
about the
he's talking
importance
about
of John Williams and how when he's editing this thing without the music, and it's the scene where they take off on the bikes, you know, and it's the E.T. theme, you know, da, 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 you know, and he plays it without the music, and then he goes, all right, now look what John Williams does for my movies and how much of a genius he is, and then they play it with
look how important the music is,
and it's like Jesus, man, this makes a classic scene, you know, like he's the man, and he does that multiple times throughout this movie.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, the only other thing that I was going to ask, because I know Richie,
the only other thing I was going to mention is because I forgot is that it reminded me, like, it's funny because for the ranking I did for Sean William Scott, I watched the rundown, and that there is definitely Indiana Jones inspiration from that movie. Yeah, especially like getting like Sean Scott's the character Travis Watson gets the gato, which is very heavily inspired by that. Yeah, so it's very
Christopher Walken or the other guy has a whip, you know, like in that movie, you know, like there's whip stuff, and and even the way they're dressed is very like indie, like throughout the movie. Yeah, it's the jungle stuff and all that.
And like obviously like when you talked about the music, that obviously that's been heavily inspired with how using the same theme but like in a different tonality. To kind of and like to kind of depending on the context of the scene. I think I've seen that in other later films, and this probably inspired that. Even in a much worse film, but I noticed that in like something like the remake to Vacation, and sometimes they would have like all these versions of Holiday Road. But like to the point, but it fit the context of the scene, sort of thing. So, but I think maybe like this, I think that John Williams like does a really good job at like he sort of remixes his own theme, but like it does, it will fit within the context of that scene. I think it's really good.
No, totally, sure. Yeah. And the other, I think I was gonna say that we'll keep spinning this wheel, but when the wheel comes up on the Temple of Doom.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Jordan.
We'll have you back.
I was going to propose something. I know we're doing this wheel spinning thing, and we'll get to it. But Temple of Doom and Last Crusade are already in my favorite movies, so they would come up eventually. I kind of want to, leading up to Dial of Destiny, continue this with Richie.
Just keep continuing. Well, I mean, we can.
Well, at least for the next two. We don't have to do.
It takes away the purpose of the wheel, but that's fine for these ones.
I know, but only because I think it's fascinating. I want to hear Richie's thoughts on Temple of Doom and Last Crusade also. You know what I mean? Sure. I know he's going to watch them anyways. And it's like, I know, technically, yes, we didn't spin the wheel to get to Temple of Doom or whatever. But, it's like they would have popped up eventually. But it's like, I don't know. I almost want to hear, Richie, follow this thing week to week and see what he, thinks of the
rest because I'm sure you probably want to watch them all before the.
Well, he was going to anyway, so we might as well.
Anyway, so
yeah. And did you watch?
Yeah, we'll hear while you're fresh off the movies,
Did you watch it on Disney Plus because they dropped on there for y'all?
Yeah, it's on there, but it's also on that streaming site that I told you about, Stan. It's on there too. So
okay, gotcha.
I watched it on there.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, totally. So, I can't remember what the release date is of Destiny, but we may have to do like one a week or one every other week or something.
It releases on the 30th, so we still have
Wednesday
the 14th and Wednesday the 21st, and then Wednesday.
We don't do. I doubt King of the Crystal Skull's on any of the list.
No.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that wouldn't pop up on the wheel anyways, but eventually Temple of Doom and Last Crusade would because they're on mine and other people's as well. So I mean, only because I just think it'd be interesting, and then we could get back to the wheel. I promise. Yeah. I promise. But I'm fascinated. Okay. I want to hear what Richie thinks of these movies because he's coming to them the first time. We don't encounter that a lot, the thing. And again, as much as, and I said this in the chat, Richie, as much as we kind of poke fun, whatever, it's just because it's such a cultural touchstone these movies are. It's just like when you find somebody that's seen a lot of movies but hasn't seen like stuff like this, it feels like it's one of those things like, oh, you haven't seen Back to the Future? You haven't seen Jurassic Park? You haven't seen Raiders? It just feels like one of those movies, that it's like you just kind of have to see, to be a movie fan, so, but yeah.
Except for me,
I watched it.
I had a few of those, like I hadn't seen Pulp Fiction until just like 2 or 3 years ago, and I
Yeah.
hadn't seen Goodfellas till about that time also. So,
Mhm.
and like people would always give me crap for it. Like, when are you gonna watch these movies? I'm like, all right, I'll get.
I don't give people crap
Yeah.
for it. I get envious because I mean, Richie got to watch these with fresh eyes. I've never been able to see it with fresh eyes. This movie just lived with me for 30 years. You know what I mean? It's like I've never been able to watch it as a first time viewer, essentially. Or I can't remember the first time I actually saw it, or if I could appreciate it for what it was the first time I saw it. Like I try to watch it with fresh eyes every time I do my rewatches or see new things. That I notice little things like this time I was really looking at the stunt work, stuff like that. But yeah, it's cool, Richie. You got to see these for the first, you got to watch Raiders. That's awesome. Like I'm jealous of you. You got to watch it through fresh eyes, and the fact that it still holds up, I think it worked. Is really cool.
Yeah. No, I'm keen with that, so I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And say what you want about what the early reviews of the Dial of Destiny are. I'm going to go in with low expectation, try to have fun. We'll see what happens. Like I already imagine they're not going to be. Well, it's not going to be anywhere on the level as any of the original three, but we'll see. So who knows?
I love all the original three, Richie. So I'm interested to see. Yeah, Temple of Doom is kind of one where you either kind of really love it or you're kind of like, there's fun stuff, but it's not as good as Raiders. But I think there's some amazing stuff in Temple of Doom, like amazing filmmaking again from Spielberg. Some great set pieces, some great practical stuff. There's some really dark stuff in that movie, especially in the second half. I think the last 45 minutes of that movie is some of the best action Spielberg's ever shot, like legitimately, like start to finish. And he's got a great way of keeping up that pace, without it ever really letting up, and you don't get tired of it. And then Last Crusade is my personal favorite. So talking about that movie, I think would be fun. So yeah.
So what is the second one? Is it Last Crusade or is it?
No, second one is Temple of Doom, even though technically it's a prequel, Richie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was the second one after Raiders, but it takes place in 1934, 2 years before Raiders.
Yeah.
So technically, but I think it'd be interesting too because you've seen all the stuff with Ke Kwan, with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and watch Short Round, in this movie, and kind of where he got his start, and then Last Crusade comes in '89 to kind of round off the series at the time, obviously until Crystal Skull, but that's my personal favorite with Sean Connery. So stuff, but no, if we could do Temple of Doom next week, I'd be all for it. If Richie would be
sure,
I'll
be down for it. Like it's a good timing to do it and stuff. Yeah,
it's a good time to do it. We'll get it out of the way, and then everything else will be random after that. I promise. But I just thought it was too perfect, Jordan, that Raiders came up on the wheel. Like legitimately. I mean, you did it on camera. Raiders just came up. It's just like, and how perfect is that? And then we had a person in our community who was seeing these for the first time. I thought it was too perfect. We just have to. And then we, I want to follow you the rest of the series, or at least the rest of the trilogy, Richie. Yeah, see what you think of that too.
And if I spin the wheel and somehow it just happens to end up on the Temple of Doom, oh well, who cares?
We'll just roll with it. We'll respin it. No, we can respin or whatever. Well, yeah, we'll
I'm just saying, like for
for
next week, if I want to spin it and whoops, like it just happened to just come up on the Temple of Doom. I guess we got to talk about that one, right?
But I mean, we'll talk about it and then we'll get back to it. But I think it'd be really fun. Yeah,
but we do have to ask Austin because I know that Richie's only seen the Raiders, but so where does Raiders rank on your all-time indie as far as like where would you rate it?
Again, Last Crusade. It's funny, man. You asked me when I'm a kid, and Temple of Doom is my favorite. You asked me as like a 20-something-year-old, and Raiders is my favorite. And then you asked me now, and Last Crusade is my favorite, only because I think I see different things in each movie. Because Last Crusade, and we'll get to it if we talk about it 2-3 weeks from now, or whatever. Because my age now and my dad's age is very similar to Indy and Sean Connery in that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of that. So I relate to as when I was a kid. It's like, oh, these two older guys, you know what I mean? Like whatever, doing their thing. So I relate more to that now. And Temple of Doom was more fun because you had a kid in that movie, a Short Round, running around and some of that stuff. So, but all three of them are in my top 100%. I think Last Crusade is probably in like top 25 territory. Raiders is probably like number 30-ish, Temple of Doom maybe around 50, 60, something like that. I don't know exactly. I'd have to look at my pages that I have. But they're all in there just because these movies are so ingrained for me, like I said, from childhood, that I can watch them over and over again and have a great time with them even to this day. Like I had a great time rewatching Raiders yesterday. You know,
Yeah.
still fun.
Yep. Same with me. And
Watching it.
And the funny thing is that Harrison Ford, he's older than well actually at the time of filming even Crystal Skull, he was older than Sean Connery was when he did The Last Crusade, which is like crazy to think about. So
yeah. Well, and even in Last Crusade, Sean Connery is only 10 years older than Harrison Ford when they make that movie and plays.
Yeah, which is kind of a little weird.
Older. But I think they age him up and it works. You know, they play older and it works. So you'll see. Richie, you'll see when we get there in about 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, really should see what you think of Temple of Doom, because I think there's like I said, there's some stuff that doesn't work as well, but I think there's also some amazing stuff in that movie, set wise, stunt wise, action, you know, even story. A great villain. I think Mulron's a great villain. When you get to him, like there's some good stuff there.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that for Raiders of the Lost Ark, for me, this is my favorite Indiana Jones film, like bar none. This movie, it's just what introduced me to the character, and like I think the other stuff's really, really good. Like they're very like neck and neck for me, but I just have a lot of nostalgia for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and yeah, it's my favorite Indiana Jones movie. And I had to go with the poster on the thumbnail that just says Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm going to go with Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the.
I hate
the Lost
I hate
Ark.
that they're trying to like retrofit that.
Yeah,
it's like
Raiders. Just call it Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, no, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. The other ones are Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like, but yeah, the original one is always going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I'll reveal what my rankings, how I rank the other two once we get to the actual review. But I'll just say that the Raiders is my favorite. So.
Hey, Richie, any final thoughts on Raiders and your first time?
Yeah, I mean, it was really great. I'm glad I sort of got to it. It kind of spearheaded me to this kind of show, so spearheaded me to get to it. I think that the actual concept of the show is pretty good, because then not only for for me watching it indie for the first time, but you'll probably get people, because we've all got our blind spots. So there's probably, there'll be things popping up at the wheel that you're like, oh, this person famously hasn't seen this big movie, so you can get them on to watch this movie. So I think that's actually pretty good for that. So no, it was really good. The practical effects were amazing. I really enjoyed it. So I'm all on board to watch the other two, and especially to be able to talk about it in this format would be great. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, let's do it, man. Next week.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
And I think that there's like Jacob Barber hasn't famously seen something on our wheel, but I can't remember what it was. So when it comes up,
well, it'll either be somebody on our crew that hasn't seen it, or obviously if it's a particular person's favorite movie, it's going to be whoever has it, on their list will come on and talk about why they love it so much. So that's kind of the concept of the show. But we just thought Indy would be perfect because as much as it's on several people's famous lists, anything we can do to push Richie and go, hey. Cool, man. Can this push you over to watch it? You were going to watch it anyways for the Hell of Destiny. Let's talk about it. Let's get your thoughts out about it, in a long form, not just a tournament fight form where you talk about it for 20 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, let's get some thoughts out on that. So I think it's worked out really well.
Yeah. So I think that will do it for us tonight, though. So it's Raiders is one of the all-timers, and we'll probably have quite a few all-timers that we're going to talk about on Wheel of Movies. So yeah, but we do some quick plugs. So Richie, where can we find you?
Find me here, Movie Hero Network. Find me here tomorrow doing a movie debate with Austin and Jacob that JPO set up to kind of be sort of guinea pigs for his concept he's going to do it on his channel. Debating like stuff like The Invasion, Attitude Era, and NXT. So it should be fun. And then I think I'll be on your and the sort of the random movie
on Friday,
the mystery tournament.
Mystery tournament
Friday.
Again, which is kind of cool. I watched your when you spun all that wheel 64 times, so that should be fun. And then we you know, I dropped a two podcast. I dropped Fart the movie the other day. Yeah, so that was there you go. So yeah,
I think you would agree Raiders is a significantly better movie.
it's
than Fart
definitely
the
better
Movie.
than Fart the movie. Had a better time.
Yeah.
Had a
That's
better
way
time watching this movie. So check out our stuff from there. I mean, we did it to ourselves. But like I said in my description, the juvenile part of me got the better of me. Like, Fart the movie, that'd be terrible. Let's watch that. Anyway, but yeah, not in a good way. Yeah. So. But yeah, and then yeah, just on like wrestling trivia, combat wrestling trivia, JPO's channel doing wrestling trivia, movie trivia, on Battleground sometimes, and yeah, so check all that out.
Yeah.
We got some pretty unique going with your Tubi podcast, Richie, because I think that like everybody's doing shows and podcasts talking about the movies they love, but then talking about some bad movies. That's kind of a unique thing. So I kind of dig it. So yeah.
Well, it can be a mixed bag because sometimes you get bad movies that are fun, like Chopping
Like Chopping
Mall,
Mall was fun.
or you get bad movies that are just bad and suck.
Yeah.
You don't get much enjoyment out of them.
Yeah.
It can be something. Yeah, y'all got to get away. I told you got to get away from Asylum and Full Moon and some of those guys. And try to fix some stuff. But that's cool. I enjoyed it. I listened to y'all's. It was something. One of the ones y'all I was listening to the other day. I've gone back and listened to a couple of older ones too that I missed, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and stuff. Some of the movies I love. But yeah, I'll be on with Jacob Barber on Saturday night. Podcast about movies. We'll be back, and we'll be talking about sort of now that we're in the midst of the summer movie season, and the blockbuster is the one that kind of started it. So we're going to talk about Jaws, and we're going to talk about another Spielberg movie I love to pieces. And then, but we're also, since we're doing this kind of multi-movie format, we're going to talk about the whole franchise, so Jaws 1 through 4. So we're talking about 2, 3, and 4 as well, and dig into it because Jacob has never seen those sequels. I have, but yeah, he hasn't. So that should be interesting to see how they definitely don't hold up to the original. But you could get some fun things in those movies.
Yeah,
talk about that. And then,
was it Mission Impossible movies? Maybe Jacob said he didn't see. I can't remember.
He hasn't seen the Mission Impossible movies. We're going to do a podcast about movies about the Mission Impossible franchise before that movie comes out, or around the time that movie comes out.
Nice.
So we're going to talk about those because he wants to polish off the franchise. I think he said he's seen 1 and 2, but he hasn't seen 3 through Fallout. So
okay. Well, if any of those other ones pop up, maybe we'll have them on.
Sure, yeah, for sure. And then Sunday night I'll be on Ryan Permison's Nerd Culture channel. He's been doing these anniversary watch-alongs, and I'll be on the one for Man of Steel for the 10th anniversary.
Nice.
Snyder, because I'm a big Snyder fan. So yeah.
Cool. That sounds good. Yeah. Oh, which he said he didn't mean to bounce, but I guess he's going to now. But but it's all good. And yeah, I want to say that if you haven't seen an Indiana Jones movie, or even if you've only seen just a couple of times, go rewatch them because they're really, really amazing. And yeah, they're definitely ones. They're like movies that like this. I like probably could say for all 3 of them that they're movies that like the minute that they're over, I just want to restart it and just watch it again. It's that good. Like it just
Well, I watch Raiders, and I immediately want to watch Temple of Doom, and then I want to watch Last Crusade. I just want to watch the trilogy. You know what I mean? Have a great time, make an afternoon out of it.
But when I was prepping for this, I watched all of Raiders, and I'm like, all right, now I got to go back and watch the best scenes so I can have a little more context, maybe. But I really was just looking for an excuse to watch them again. So,
sure.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I wasn't just watching the truck sequence on YouTube again before we went live.
Yeah, right. Yep. But and also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do it. It really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it. And also share it out. Tell your friend, tell your family to subscribe because it really means a lot to us. We're putting a big push until we can get monetized. We'll be always pushing for those subscribers. So, and once we get there, maybe we'll let up on that a little bit. But and then just what we have coming up this week, we'll be doing something almost similar with the wheel. That'll be our movie hero mystery tournament that Richie kind of mentioned, where we spin the wheel 64 times, and the first 64 movies to pop up will be in a mystery tournament. But And if you want to just tune in to that only, then it'll be a mystery for you too what'll pop up on it. But if you want to go back and watch our selection show, me and Austin, we went live and recorded us spinning it 64 times, and you can get a little preview of what might be on there. So, and then just next week we'll be doing Best Movie Duos Championship. We got that one coming up, and then we'll be doing Best Movie Dads for Father's Day. So that's just a quick little preview of what's coming up. So
next Wednesday night, we're talking indie again. Let's talk Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Why not?
We'll be back next week because we got an Indiana Jones movie coming up, and we're going to talk them with Richie again. So that'll be fun. So but I think that'll do it for us tonight. So that was a good time. So thanks for tuning in to this the inaugural first episode of the Wheel of Movies, and for Richie Goodacre, for Austin Pez Howell, I've been Jordan the Movie Hero Anderson, and we will see you next time.